Welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This how-to podcast is focused on empowering you to live your best life by incorporating the principles of the law of attraction, NLP, meditation, and other spiritual teachings. I'm Jeannie Hall, a certified NLP practitioner and creative empowerment coach. Let's get you empowered. Hello, and welcome to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. This is episode 8, Waiting Sucks, and How to Survive It. So today's podcast is all about waiting for something to happen. So if you're a believer in the universal laws, including the law of attraction, and you have a faith and belief in a higher power like God or the universe or source energy or whatever you call your higher power and divinity, if you're waiting for inspired action, if you're waiting to receive guidance on that, or if you're waiting for something to manifest that you've been wanting, it can be very frustrating if you are one of those people that believes in that and you are trying to keep your faith and you're trying to make these things manifest and you're waiting, you know you can't force it, so you're waiting for it to happen or to receive some inspiration on some action you can take. And if you just don't feel like you're seeing any momentum in that direction, it can be very frustrating. And very few of us are good at waiting at all in life in general anyway, so it's understandable that we get frustrated. And to paraphrase Homer Simpson, we want our buffalo and we want it now, right? We're not the most patient people, especially in today's society. We want happiness and fulfillment and a sense of accomplishment and the love of our lives and success and prosperity and money and all the things that come with it. And we don't want to wait for it. We want it to come to us right now. And of course, we get very frustrated when it doesn't, because our society is all about the microwavable drive-through rat race that we have as a world. And I have to agree on a personal level that waiting can really suck, because we're not used to waiting and we grow impatient, and it's just difficult if you feel like you've already been waiting for a long time, or if you feel like you get really bogged down in the blahs of just waiting for something that you're trying to manifest, but in the meantime you're stuck and mired in whatever it was that you were already dealing with. If you're dealing with something negative, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we all have evidence of why this sucks. So that time, for example, that we might have gone to the ER with the flu because no appointments were available with our regular doctor, only to wait 3 hours feeling really shitty crappy, and then get told to drink lots of fluids and get plenty of rest, but are not given any kind of medication or anything else that might make us feel better. That sucks. Or that time you waited hours at the airport during the holidays for your delayed flight to get in, only for it to end up being canceled altogether, and you get stranded at the airport. It happens. But here's the thing. Yes, waiting sucks. But sometimes instant gratification can be our downfall. Some of us don't finish degrees because we're tired of school, or we're tired of never having any money. So we end up getting a job to make that money, or because we're just sick of going to school every day, and we'll figure we'll just go back and finish that degree later in a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. But then all of a sudden it's 20 years later and we still don't have that degree. We still don't have our dream job. And we sit back and reflect sometimes and just wonder what happened. How did I get here? Or we get tired of waiting for Mr. or Mrs. Right to come along, so we settle for the next person who shows us even a modicum of interest. Because waiting sucks. But here's something that sucks even more: unhappiness. Especially when that unhappiness comes from the knowledge that we might have been happier if we would have been willing to be a little more patient, if we'd been a little more willing to wait. And I get it. It's so hard to wait when you feel like, especially if you are in the process of manifesting this big life, if you've been making life changes and you see a little bit of change, you see some signs, or maybe part of your life has changed, but not the biggest thing you wanted to change. So like maybe you've seen improvements in your health and your financial situation, but not in your love life. Or maybe you've seen great strides in your love life, but your business and finances just are not coming around. So it's really, if it's some really large aspect of your life that you've been working on, and it seems to be eluding you, it seems to be avoiding you and not coming to fruition, it's really hard to wait. Because we all want those big things in life most of all. We want that happy love life. We want that great career or great business. We want money, and we want a house, and we want a car, and we want 2 kids. Some of us. Those are things that are important to many of us. Some of those things are all of them. And it's super difficult waiting for them to happen, especially if you've been working on it. And yet, here's the problem. Trying to force these things into being almost always ends in disaster. So this is where the next essential step comes in. And the next essential step is trust. If you trust God, the universe, and your higher self to guide you, then you'll know what action to take, and you'll know when to take it. And when you take it, it'll feel right and it'll feel good. It'll feel joyous and easy. Because life was never meant to be hard or a struggle. Life was meant to be easy too. As long as you listen to your own inner guidance, it will be. But that's a habit that we have to hone and we have to develop. And there will be times when things are occurring behind the scenes, so to speak, when you won't see anything happening that's super obvious, at least on your end. And you'll be tapping your foot and whatever else it is when you're getting anxious and nervous and frustrated, waiting to see it. And it'll look like nothing is happening, but it is. God and the universe are working things out for you. You just need to exercise some patience. And I recently discovered this fabulous podcast, which I'll link in the show notes. It's called Awaken Radio Podcast with Connie Chapman, and it's absolutely wonderful. And Connie calls this time of lesser activity and seeing fewer immediate results, she calls it the void. And I actually heard one of my mentor, Kelly Cooper, mention that she'd heard someone use the term the void for this time of waiting, this time of, it feels like slower progress, where we don't see as much actually manifesting in the moment and we're waiting to see it. And that's a real, she liked the term and I do as well. And when you're in the void, you won't see things visibly occurring. But you have to realize, you have to understand that they still are occurring. Things are happening. The universe is setting things in motion that you might not be privy to, but they are happening. And when you're in this kind of waiting game, where you're in this situation where you're waiting to see things manifest, you're waiting for inspiration so you can take inspired action, so you're not forcing it, so you won't end up just going in circles. It's a really perfect time, not only for patience, but also for reflection and self-care. And something Connie Chapman also talked about was it's a really good time to just slow down, because our lives today tend to be so hectic and so full of stress and craziness that when you find yourself in this position where deep down you know it's coming, hopefully, that's part of that. If you're listening to your inner guidance, you realize it is coming, but we get impatient and we want to see results faster sometimes. So being in the void can feel uncomfortable. But if you'll slow down and reflect, and it's a great time for self-care and just really kind of making yourself take a breath and look at how far you've come, look at the direction you're going in, congratulate yourself for what you've already accomplished and what you already see manifesting in your life, then that can help a lot. And this is a perfect time to be quiet with yourself, to go on walks in nature, for example, or to meditate, to say affirmations to yourself that feel really good. This is a great time to create vision boards, or if you've never created them, or if you've already created some, to create new ones. It's a great time to try some new exercise, especially something strength bearing like yoga, or something again that's about breathing and really getting your focus on the inside. It's a great time to get lots of rest, take naps, take a class you'll enjoy. So if you're not feeling inspired, my other mentor and coach, Betsy Paik, she talked about going through a time like this recently where she just didn't feel motivated to create anything. She wasn't inspired to take action. And so what she did is she furthered her own education by becoming a master coach in NLP. That's the direction she went in. So maybe taking a class is what you need, and that will kind of keep you occupied while this time is happening. And it's also a great time to really visualize and clarify what you want for your future. So in other words, what's really important is to do whatever feels good to you generally. And it can be any of those or all of those. It's important to know that what you're waiting on is on its way. It is already on its way. It has already happened on the spiritual side. And now it's just coming into the reality of your physical side as well. But you don't see it yet, and I know that's frustrating. Just hold on and just trust that it will manifest. And one of the ways I'm going to help you to be patient during this time is to give you a couple of exercises that will hopefully help you to get through this kind of inactive, slower time that we call the void. So the first one I'm going to give you is a visualization. I call it the perfect you visualization, and there's two parts to this. For part one, I want you to imagine that you are in the future that you've been dreaming of. The thing or things that you've been wishing and waiting for have already arrived. They already have. So picture yourself in the future with these things that you've wanted, or this big thing that you want. I want you to imagine that you wake up in the morning and you have every single thing that you've dreamed of. Everything is going right and perfect in your life. Now focus on how you feel. Write down or think of 5 words that describe exactly how you feel in that state. Now, after you've come up with your words, I want you to then feel each emotion fully. So hopefully you've written down 5 words that are kind of emotionally based. And what you're going to do, you're going to write those down, and then you're going to take your time go through this exercise, and what you'll do is you'll feel each one of those emotions and really let yourself feel them on a deep level. And what I mean by this is to examine each of these emotions on every level that you possibly can. So let's do an example so you know what I mean. Let's say one of your emotions is relief because you now have all the money you could ever want, and you will never have to worry about any kind of cash shortage ever again. You've got all the money that you ever need. And that's a big issue for a lot of people, including myself, so I understand that one. So focus again on that emotion of relief. How does it feel to you? How does relief feel to you? So think about that. You can write it down or you can just experience it, whichever is most comfortable and feels right to you. For me, I'm going to describe how it feels. Relief as an emotion feels like a release or a letting go of stress and negativity. It's the sensation for me of going from heaviness to lightness. That kind of feeling, right? And then break down why that emotion feels enjoyable. So we're talking about relief. So why does relief feel enjoyable? And to me, relief feels enjoyable because I personally associate the emotion of relief with freedom. Because when I release any negativity, I become free to do what I really want to do without any worries or concerns dragging me down. So now you're going to look at how that emotion feels in your body. And since we're discussing relief, I'm going to talk about how relief feels in my own body when I experience it. For me, relief feels like a sigh or like taking a breath after holding it as long as I can. It's very welcome. And it can also feel like an absence of pain. When you've been in pain for a while and suddenly that pain is alleviated, that is relief. And directly physically in my body, it's also the sensation of like a tightness in my stomach that then just melts and relaxes away into nothing. So that's how specific you'll be. Do this for all 5 of your emotions that you're experiencing. And imagine going through your perfect day feeling all of those 5 emotions. Okay, and then we're going to do part 2 of the same exercise. So after you've done the emotional exercise, imagine what you would do during this perfect day. So what actions are you taking? You already have the thing that you want or all the things that you want. They're already there, right? You're in the future. You're blissfully happy because all these things have come to be. The things that you've been waiting for are now here. So what are you doing? So here's a few possibilities. Maybe you're spending time with your kids that you've been dreaming about or your soulmate. Maybe you're happily running your business or enjoying a new promotion in your career. Maybe you're traveling the world and seeing sights you always dreamt of seeing. So what I want you to do is whatever it is that you're doing for that one day, I want you to visualize it from start to finish. So as soon as you wake up and you felt all these emotions, what are you now doing? What actions are you taking in that day that feel so great? It should all be very positive. And make sure that you feel every lovely, wonderful emotion along the way and describe that to yourself as you go along. And once you've done this, you should be in a state of very high and happy vibration. And it'll be this wonderful, in me, I feel it as a very kind of buzzing excitement in my body. So memorize that super high energy feeling once you get into that, once you feel all the emotions, once you are imagining that perfect day with everything you've ever wanted, that high happy vibration and excitement that you got off of that, go through all your days now, in present day, in your current reality, that you haven't manifested them in the physical quite yet. Go through that visualization, that exercise every morning, and recreate that feeling every day. It's going to be just a general feeling of really high vibration, high excitement, and happiness. And get there every day at the beginning of your day. Try and, if you can throughout the day, bring it back, then that's even better. And then right before you go to bed, try and also get that high vibrational energy going. Okay, so the second exercise that I'm sharing with you today is one I call Feel Grateful. And we're doing this one because gratitude is one of the best ways to feel good, which brings what you want to you faster. So again, this is one of those exercises that you do every morning and right before you go to bed. So every morning before you even get out of bed, think of several things you're grateful for. You don't have to write them down. It doesn't have to be anything formal like a journal, although you can do that if you'd like. Some people really like doing that and writing it down, and that's great if you do. You can do a voice memo if you want, whatever makes you comfortable, but you can just lay there and think about it quietly in your own mind. That's totally fine. But think about things that you're grateful for. Just think of several different things, at least 5 things that you're grateful for right in your current reality. And as you go through your day, once you get up and have gotten going and are doing whatever you're doing for that day, as many times as you can during the day, stop in that moment and look around you and think about other things that you're grateful for as well. And just keep adding through that list. So every time you get a free moment, every time you can take a breath, your lunch period, a break, a time when you're stuck in traffic, whatever it is, where you have a moment to stop and reflect, think about what you're thankful for. What makes you feel gratitude? And it's especially important to do that if you are feeling stressed in the day, or if you're feeling some other negative emotion. Stop yourself and take a breath and relax and tell yourself something you're grateful for. And it'll immediately help you. It is the greatest and simplest way to feel better. So you'll do that, of course, when you wake up, and then throughout the day, especially if something negative comes along. And then at night, right before bed, you're going to run a dialogue in your head about several things that you felt grateful for that day. And if you didn't have a chance to stop during your day and reflect on what you were grateful for, this is the perfect time to catch up. So now, as you're laying down to go to sleep, take a moment and just think of some of the things that happened to you that day. No matter what it was that happened to you that day, think of some things that you are grateful for. Because, FYI, for your information, it is impossible to feel negative emotion and gratitude, true gratitude, at the same time. So if you're lying there and you're feeling grateful for whatever happened, even if you had a shitty, crappy kind of day, there's always something to be grateful for. Even if it's just that this day is over, right? Or what happened is now over, or whatever it is, right? There's always something to be grateful for. So get in that feeling of gratitude and really be thankful for what it was that you received that day, even if it was something small. And that will help you to flip your emotions into a more positive space. It'll also raise your vibration into that high vibrational energy that brings what you want to you faster. And so, while I agree that waiting can suck, if you trust your journey, you'll know that you won't have to wait forever. So if you'd like more information on trust or waiting, or also on meditation, which was one of the things I mentioned, that's a great way to kind of help yourself get through the void if you're in that right now, I'd like you to check out these resources. So on my own podcast, I've linked 3 of my former podcasts. One of them is the last one I did, the Seek and Ye Shall Find podcast, which is all about how you can find what you're searching for as long as you focus on it. I also have linked my 2 most recent guided meditations. One is on permanent weight loss and one is on letting go. And some other resources I've linked for you are Connie Chapman's podcast, which I mentioned earlier. I also linked the Live Life Made to Order podcast 124, which is called Law of Attraction. I've pulled back from bad feeling action, but nothing's happening. So it's kind of being in the void. That's my mentor Kelly Cooper's podcast, and it is awesome. So please listen to that if you need to. Also, I linked an ebook from her husband, Ryan Bidoff, who is also one of my mentors and is completely awesome. He's contributed to this blog several times, which is just so wonderful. His ebook is called How to Stop Worrying So You Can Start Smiling. So check that out on Amazon. And also on the Personal Growth channel, I've also linked a blogging article which is called Success Starts Long Before Anyone Else Notices. So check out those resources. They should help you further along in your journey, especially if you're struggling and you're waiting for things to happen and you feel like they're not happening fast enough. This is a great way to help get you through the void. So thank you so much for listening. And as always, have an empowered day, week, month, and year. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Create Your Empowered Self podcast. If you've enjoyed this content or found it helpful, please let me know by leaving a review. I upload podcasts every Wednesday and Saturday, so subscribe to receive these regular updates. Now, go out there and live a more empowered life.